Yes, I've been working on some incantations. Hopefully I can say them aloud, maybe do a bit of a witch black magic thing, and hopefully kill the daemon.
Whatever you're doing, Anthony, please hurry! Please hurry!
I will. Hi everyone, Safethany Caltano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Torres LP, Sprinter. Torres is the musical pseudonym of singer-songwriter Mackenzie Scott, who under this name is on her second full-length LP here. Unfortunately, Mackenzie's first LP didn't really stop me in my tracks, but leading up to the release of this new album here, I heard a pretty fantastic single. Strange Hellos. Great song. Easily one of the better rock songs of the year, with these very heavy, pummeling alt-rock, grunge-style guitars, very reminiscent of like a Hole song. Very angsty, emotionally shattering vocals on this track with a kind of sad story to back it up. And the song makes for a pretty hard-hitting intro on this album, since it is not just the lead single from this LP, but also the introductory track. The album glides into the song New Skin, which, if I'm reading the lyrics correctly, I believe we're dealing with maybe marriage or like religion on this track. I often find Torres' lyrics to be kind of intriguing, even if at times they are a little plain, sort of like at the end of this track where she's kind of moaning about the darkness and fears. This track has some heavy guitars as well. It's just another powerfully sad rock tune. And so far with these two songs, the album is off to a good start. But Sprinter is I don't know. I mean, I don't want to use a corny metaphor, but I'm going to use one anyway. I guess secretly when you say that, you actually do want to use a corny metaphor. I digress. But Sprinter loses speed very fast as we get into the third song of this record. We have the very ominous song, Son, You Are No Island, where Torres actually brings some pretty tortured, emotive vocals on this track, but musically, the song isn't really that interesting. Just, again, musically and song-wise, the track isn't that enjoyable or memorable. The track really just kind of feels like an elongated interlude or motif. And as Sprinter moves along, Torres continues to deliver some pretty good vocals over increasingly uninspired instrumentals, like with A Proper Polish Welcome, which is very vast, it's very open, kind of dramatic in a way, while it isn't as electronic or synthetic. It reminds me a little bit of like a Bat for Lashes song. And on this LP as well, you might also catch similarities to other contemporary female alternative singer-songwriters, people like maybe Angel Olsen or a bit of Sharon Van Etten. But unfortunately, Torres doesn't bring nearly as much musical intricacy or nuance or layers to the table. Just take the song Ferris Wheel, one of the longer tracks in the track listing here, and a song that knows that it doesn't function very well based on its lone vocal and guitar part. So there is this just like very light, ambient, what sounds like guitar noise placed very quietly into the background just to kind of fill space because space needs to be filled. Not because it's a good sound, it's actually a very homely and unpleasant sound, drowning out what little song we actually have on this track. Sure, some bass and some drums do pop in later in the song, but by that point, the track has really already dug its own grave. I like that the title track on here picks things up, picks the tempo up, picks the energy up, but the guitars on this track just kind of feel like another just slow, plodding alt-rock guitar variation on what had already happened on the first two songs. So not only is this album lacking in some seriously captivating musical ideas, but variety as well at this point. And when the album actually does kind of step outside of its comfort zone, which we hear on the song Cowboy Guilt, which has these kind of flat, distorted electronics that don't really sound all that great, it's actually pretty unflattering. And the vocal melody on this track, kind of tedious as well. Not one of the better sound production moments on this LP, not one of the better songwriting moments either. Not that the distorted percussion made this song all that listenable to begin with. We do have a decent closer on this album though, which is really a moment of quiet desperation. The really detailed, intriguing lyrics on this track, which feel very sad, very personal, kind of remind me, as well as Torres's vocal melody on the verse of this track, kind of remind me of Sufjan Stevens, specifically his newest LP. Not that, I think that his new album was directly an influence on this track, but there just seems to be something just very whisper quiet and just incredibly depressing about it. But Torres doesn't bring nearly as much instrumental character and flair on this track. I mean, the guitars behind her and just all the instrumentation in general is just so faint in terms of just volume and in terms of just performance as well, where I just feel like I'm kind of listening to her voice, which by all means is nice, but I don't know, I guess I was just expecting just more of an instrumental oomph from this record, because her last LP, while there were some decent tunes on it, I thought the instrumentation at times was kind of bland, and I thought that with the song Strange Hellos being just as much of a punch sonically as it was, that we might be in for something a little different this time around. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. While, again, I like Torres's vocals, and Mackenzie definitely brings some impassioned singing to the table occasionally on this album, the production and the instrumentation isn't awful, but it's just very plain, and it's so skeletal and emaciated to the point where I just am left starving on these tracks for any kind of musical ideas to remember or pull from or just enjoy. It just sounds like there are tracks on this LP that are needlessly trying to be as minimalistic as possible. There are other songwriters that I think might have done it with just a degree more of success, people like Scout Niblet, for example. But in this specific instance, it's really just rubbing me the wrong way. I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on this LP. Transition. What did you think of this album? If you've given it a listen, did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, Torres, Sprinter, album review. Have a good day. Believe in yourself. Eat your fruits and vegetables. Get a good night's sleep. Forever.